adjusting the white balance on this photo to fix it and make it look the best that it can. So go ahead and right click on the photo wherever it is on your hard drive. Mine's in my downloads folder. I'm going to hit open with Adobe Photoshop. I'm going to zoom in so I can see it. So that's Command plus. Now that I can see it, we're ready to begin with our adjustments. Now, in order to protect the original image, because Photoshop is destructive, I like to copy the layer. So I'm going to go ahead and drag the layer down to the new layer icon, which is the one with the plus. Release, and I now have a copy of the layer. I'm going to press Command Shift A, and that's going to launch this raw editor, which is going to allow me to do a couple of things that I can't do naturally within Photoshop. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the white balance, which is under color. So if you don't have that showing, click open color. And we're going to click on this little eyedropper tool. And that eyedropper tool is going to take a sample of something and try to adjust the color based on the sample. Now the sample has to be what should be a neutral color. So this background should be a neutral color. Now I can't click on something that is white because there's no color value in it. I have to click on a neutral color. So I clicked on the background and it adjusted it, but now that has made the hat look a little bit weird. So I'm going to click around and see if any other place in here looks more correct. So anywhere I'm clicking, I'm looking for neutral colors to adjust the white balance so that it looks correct. And the one that I seem to like the best is right here on the side of the LH. That is supposed to be white, so this shadow over here that's in kind of a middle gray, that works out well. Under the hat, it's got reflected light that's pink on the background. Not sure what's going on there, but that's not working either. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to click on OK, so that should have adjusted it. I can click on the eyeball next to that layer and hide it so we can see how I've adjusted. So that has cooled off the image a bit. It was a little bit too warm, too yellow, too pink. Now it's a neutral gray. All right, the next thing that I want to do is I want to be able to adjust this background. So I'm going to start by adding a adjustment layer. And I'm going to go to curves. On curves, you can see it adds that adjustment layer. And what I'm going to do with curves, notice I've got these eyedroppers again that allow me to select colors. There's a white eyedropper, a mid-tone eyedropper, and a black eyedropper. So anywhere it's supposed to be white, I can click. Now we're going to try it on this background, and I think it's going to go too far. So let's take a look. Yep, it went too far. That's too much out of what should show this hat, so that's problematic. So let's see if I try it on here, the hat. That is taking it to white, but it's not making that background white. So what I think I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to isolate this hat from the adjustment layer. So I'm going to go back to this background layer copy, and I'm going to use this object selection tool. So if it's not on your screen, it's the fourth icon down in your toolbar. And if you click and hold, you should see three options here, and I'm going to select the object selection tool. Oops, there we go. So as I move my cursor around, you can see it's trying to find what it wants me to select. So if I put my mouse on the hat, it tries to select the hat. Can look and see if it did a good job. It didn't really. It selected part of the shadow over here. So I'm going to go ahead and go up here to select and mask, and it's going to show me what my selection looks like. Now, this is currently set on view black and white. I'm going to change it so I have a pink overlay. And now I can see a little bit better where my selection ends. And now I can zoom in and take a look at the selection here. So I currently have this brush tool selected, which allows me to paint. I can change my brush size here, or I can also change my brush size by pressing the left square bracket. So I'm shrinking it down, and I can paint out parts of the selection. So currently I'm adding, meaning I'm adding the parts that I'm painting to the selection, so it'll make it clear. Make it even smaller to get up into that corner of the hat there. Okay, so that looks good. The problem area is down here, so I'm going to subtract from it because I want it to become pink. So add is up here, subtract is right here, so I'm going to use this brush again. I could probably go with a bigger size this time, so I'm going to increase by going to the right square bracket. And I'm going to sneak right up in there. And try and make as accurate a selection as I possibly can. Fixing the areas that shouldn't be included in the selection for the hat. Okay, that looks pretty good. Down there looks pretty good. Along this side, we lost a little bit, so I'm going to clean that up. And the rest of the hat looks great. Okay, so now that I'm happy with the selection, I'm going to come over here and click OK. And you'll see that the marching ants are still selecting the hat, which is what I want. And I'm going to go ahead and go up to, so while that's selected, I'm coming up to the adjustment layer, and I'm clicking on this white box here. I'm not clicking here. Notice I can select both of these things. I want to click on the white box here. That white box is called a layer mask, and it's going to let me show and hide certain pixels on that layer. So my foreground color is currently black, which is what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Edit, Fill, and it's going to fill with the foreground color. So that'll fill it with black, 100%. Okay. And you can watch what just happened here. So I'm going to go to Select and Deselect. But if I zoom in on this layer mask that I just created, notice it's black where the hat was and it's white where the background is. So that means that it's not going to affect that area. Anywhere it's black, this curves layer is not going to be affected. So I don't want the hat to be affected by the curves adjustment layer. So now I'm ready to give this an adjustment. I'm going to click on the white again, and I want this white background to be white. There we go. It made it white, and then my midtones should be in this area. So I chose the midtone eyedropper. There's my midtone, and notice it adjusted the color, so that's not pink either. And now the hat is nice and isolated against a white backdrop. And the only other thing that I might do is now I might make some color adjustments to the hat itself. So I'm going to go to hue saturation, which is right there. I'm going to increase my saturation a little bit to make it look more pink. I'm going to adjust the brightness a little bit to bring out the lightness of the hat. And it's looking a little yellow to me, so I'm going to take the hue, slide it a little bit to the left. There we go. So if you want to see my actual numbers on this particular adjustment layer, it was -4 hue, +26 saturation, and +5 lightness. All right, I'm happy with this image, so we're going to go ahead and save it. File, save. And since it's no longer a JPEG because it has these layers in it, it's going to be a Photoshop file, which is what I want. It should say hubvisor.psd. I'm going to go ahead and save it on my desktop where I know where it is. I should have my work in progress folder here somewhere. Apparently I don't, so I'm going to have add a work in progress folder. There we go. And I'll save it right in there. And this is the file you're going to upload to Google Classroom.